Yes.
Sarwark.
Yes.
Smith.
Unequivocally yes.
I'm going to vote yes. I'll say again now that Phillips has re-entered the room. I know you said earlier, but I'm going to ask. What's
No
your
vote.
Huh?
No vote.
Abstain. Madam Chair?
Yes.
I count 16 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention.
Who wants me on the next committee?
Delaware joined in.
Just as a point of information on the minutes, it has been requested that Phillips' vote be recorded as not voting instead of as abstention. So it's 16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstention, and 1 not voting.
All right. So, orders of the day have us at council's reports. And, yes, but also a day late. So, let's try it. Once we get Mr. Hall on the line, if any of you do have questions for him, you may have to actually come up here, or I can just relay your question.
How do you want me to know? My question.
Please leave your message for
Okay, let's give him a
202.
second. Yeah, he's been.
I'm gonna send his number out on the street.
So we've
All
been
right.
winging this, so let's, let me see if I respond, and then I just down here. And
Yeah, sure. That's his phone number there. You dial 9-1.
Did you get my message?
9.
On the AT&T, it's really good.
I did not. I was starting with this, but I got it.
Okay. I asked them about the internet so that they can make
It
their
just
work.
said it was a good, and all of a sudden it was a good connection.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
But if you want, we got the hotspot up. I sent you the AT&T info for that. And it's really strong.
Slack?
Facebook Messenger. Try that.
Gotcha. All right, if it leaves here.
Okay.
Oh,
What?
it didn't say. It just,
Oh, fuck.
Here, I got it.
Okay. Thank you for your patience while we tried to get Mr. Hall on the line. Oh, here we go. Thanks. Still in session. Working on getting Mr. Hall on the line.
Hi, Whitney.
Hi, Oliver, you are on the line with the LNC at this time. Is that okay?
Hi, I'm very sorry. My wife stepped out, and I just need to. I'll be ready at 2:15. Is that
Okay,
right?
okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
we'll try.
call in at 2:15. I
Okay.
apologize for all
Thank
the
you.
back and forth.
That's okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Do we have an item of business, or should we what about the motion
Motion.
So what?
Alex's motion. Yeah.
Mr. Longstreth.
I would like to move the committee vacancies section of our agenda to ballot to be second.
You want to move the committee section of our agenda to what?
The vacancy
The
section.
vacancy section to e-ballots.
Oh,
To the list.
okay.
To the list, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
To the list.
Not
So-
here.
For electronic voting.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion to conduct the filling of the vacancies for the 3 committees, moving them from today's meeting to the list and conducting those votes electronically. And it has been seconded. Any objection to that action?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is the APRC functioning fine with this vacancy, or they being filled?
Yeah.
I feel that it is. I don't want to speak for the entire committee.
Well, so I'm the one who's previously raised concerns about making sure we have that populated. From my perspective, yeah, it's working. There are times when we have to poke each other a little bit, but it's absolutely getting done. The job's being done. We haven't seen a delay in notifications, so if we need to delay for another week or two while we do this electronically, I think we'll be okay.
Thank you. All right, I heard no objections to that action, so we will do that. We'll move that to online. That gets rid of that today. The next item of business, which getting into that will then conflict with getting Mr. Hall online here, which will be in now. Yeah, about 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, so.
Can I use for 5 minutes?
Yes, we'll just be at ease for 5 minutes, please don't leave.
I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, okay, Mr. Muller.
I was gonna make, I assume it's in order to do it at this point, to make a motion to amend the agenda to consider a motion regarding the gap analysis for potentially replacing Razor's Edge with Civic.
Second.
Remember that meeting?
To do that right now.
Right now, okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Can
you
Clean
have
out
we have
since
5 minutes before Oliver calls. I cannot put him on, I cannot.
I understand, but I think that I think this will be fast.
And you're gonna do what?
It's just, all it does is it creates a gap analysis. All it is, we're not deciding anything today, we are deciding to collect information and make a decision later.
Okay,
So I think it's gonna be fast.
okay. Ever seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
Any objections to that? Okay,
I'm gonna do the motion.
cool.
That was fast.
No, that was putting it
I was
on the
putting it on the agenda.
Oh.
Second the motion.
And.
Now,
just sent
does
it-
that, oh, well, it doesn't matter, it's nobody objected, but it would have required it there.
It would have required you to. So.
Got 4 minutes left, Ken.
I know. What's our quorum count at the moment?
We've got it.
Okay. So may I just read the motions very quick? Move to appoint Ryan Graham of Georgia to lead a gap analysis for phasing out of Razor's Edge by the end of 2022, with a report to be provided to the LNC at or prior to the March meeting of the LNC. Staff is directed to provide the information requested by Mr. Graham to perform a thorough analysis.
I'll second that.
Second.
Any objections to that action?
I'll read you 2 now.
Hearing no objections, it is done. So,
My other motion's controversial, so I'll hold it.
Mr. Hagan?
We will answer this question maybe in a couple minutes. Do we want to decide today for the date and location of the next meeting, or
Yes.
is that online?
No, not online.
So move to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Okay, under obviously new business without previous notice.
Yes.
Would require a 2/3 vote. It's been seconded. Are there any objections to basically making the decision today about the date and general location
Right.
of the next LNC meeting? Hearing no objections, we'll add that to the agenda. There is someone in the gallery seeking to be recognized when we have this very brief downtime. Is there any objection to your, tell us who you are and where you're from, please.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Andrew Nadeau, Andrew G. Nadeau, N-A-D-E-A-U. Libertarian candidate in my hometown of Riverhead, New York. Well, I will be as soon as I'm separated from the Navy. Some of you guys are tracking what's going on in the military. Us who aren't taking the vaccine, we're getting pushed out. I'm a active duty, independent duty corpsman, credentialed, equivalent to a physician assistant in the Navy. I work at the academy, Naval Academy. I've treated thousands of COVID patients for over a year, and I've seen what I believe to be vaccine adverse reactions. I got sort of like a truther site for my hometown because my now mission is, now that I'm getting booted from the Navy, well, I'm going to stop this from happening to my kids and my little brother who are in the school district. So what I'm doing now here is just garnering support. I'm going to start my campaign for May. Overhearing this, I'm humbled to see how actually government works. A lot of this is like foreign language to me. But what I can tell you is that I don't need ballot access to run as for president of the school board, right? But I can be that libertarian candidate, and I can garner that support. And I've been garnering support online my past 2 weeks that I've been just actively destroying this. So my position is that the vaccine is harmful, it's not effective, and the new literature by the American Heart Association backs that up. Cardiac panel, specifically endothelial inflammation on those cardiac panel markers are high up, and it's being censored by the World Health Organization. So I'm looking at this from a geopolitical, tactical standpoint. 12 years in the Navy, 4 deployments, anti-terrorism watch officer, Phoenix Raven mission commander of Weapons Release Authority. I've lived under several regimes, and I spent half of my career overseas. I'm coming home, I'm going back to my hometown, and I'm going to politic on no masks, no jabs, vote they do. All right, it's going to be a winning message where I'm from. So if there's any support in the room that I can garner my way to Suffolk County, New York, Long Island, I'm going to be running heavily. I'm going to be promoting our agenda, and I'm recruiting industrial-aged young folks who feel disenfranchised and are watching their parents' government and how they govern and seeing that they don't want this collective ideology, and they're going towards the egoist, anarchist route, the nihilist route, the individual route, volunteerist route, and that's a perfect subgroup we could channel to the Libertarian Party, right? Because they just need refinement. So anyway, if there's any support, Long Island, New York, again, I'm being separated from the Navy. I'm putting it all on the line. I've submitted memorandums of the record to my superiors stating my beliefs. I don't represent the Department of Defense on my beliefs here. I don't represent the government stance on the vaccines. That's why I'm being separated. But I'm here to tell you that they're harmful and that I have the evidence to back it up. So if you want to support me, I'm not too tech savvy. I've been dark online for a long time, but now I'm back in the game. On Instagram, it's at Andrew G. Nadeau. I run the Mises Caucus Libertarian Party Mises Caucus page in New York on Instagram, and I'm doing my best to recruit people to the idea of liberty, regardless of caucuses, because I did not realize that there was this much tension between libertarians and whatnot. Also, I'm active duty, so I appreciate you thanking me for my service. Just kidding. But anyway, so I'm really excited to be around people who have just like-minded views, even if they differ on little things. I know we're all big proponents of liberty, so this to me is like a key issue, civil liberties issue. If they can inject you with whatever they want, the state owns you. And I don't buy that. I don't care what science you got, because each side has their own literature, their own science.
Thank you.
I'm going down a liberty path. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are waiting for Mr. Hall to call in, which he should be doing here any second. The live stream is back up, and I don't believe that it was when we finished up that last that last vote.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I just want to recap for the audience what happened. With a vote of 16-0 won, the motion related to LP Delaware passed. As amended, yes. So, here we go. And I'm gonna try it.
I already stopped. Oh, did we just come up? We passed a motion that I put into.
Ah, yes. I'm handling all of it. Would you mind?
Oh, yeah, here.
Was that on the stream? Oh, that was.
I was. Okay, good deal.
Or down the chair.
Mr. Smith.
Are we even right now? Because I'd like to make a motion.
Well, we're at ease, so.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I need to take care of this.
To move the vacancies to the online.
We did.
that.
That's already done.
Yep. All right, done.
Thank you. Good night.
Because that's something that we can try.
There's been a lot of emotional energy over the last 6 months. It's great. Or at least a more sizable space.
Do you have everybody? No.
Hello.
Hi, Oliver. Got all that?
I apologize as well. I had you reserved for 2:15, and then my wife stepped out and was just a few minutes late. Getting back, so I apologize, but I'm prepared to speak with you now.
Okay, just so you know, the LNC is here and we are in open session. you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I hope everyone has seen the special counsel report for this quarter. As usual, I think it is largely self-explanatory, so I don't have much to add to it. But I did have a couple of points I wanted to make, and then I'm just available for any questions or comments you may have for me. Now, there was a query put to me over email that apparently arose during this meeting about filing deadlines and the case law on that issue. Is that something that I should address now, or
No.
should I do it over email? How would you
No,
like me to?
that was just a question I had for you.
Okay, all right then. Then the one other thing I wanted to mention is I think everybody knows we recently won our case in Maine. So that's great because I think everybody knows that state affiliate has struggled under the burden of an unconstitutional statutory scheme, and we've been litigating that case since 2018, and we finally got a judgment in our favor. The status of it is that the court has declared a couple of aspects of the statutory scheme that we were challenging unconstitutional, but it reserved the question of the remedy for further proceedings. So that's where we are now. We are currently conferring with opposing counsel in an effort to propose a remedy that the defendants can simply agree to, and hopefully we will reach that point at which we will then present the court with a proposed order that the court has agreed to, and the court could simply agree to enter our proposed order. I don't want to get into details, especially in open sessions, and some of the discussions are of course confidential, but I'm optimistic, and I think we're going to get some substantial relief for the Libertarian Party of Maine. So that's great news for them, and I think for the party generally. And with that, I think that's all I wanted to add to the report as written, so I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. We do have one. Ms. Adams is on her way up to the mic to.
Hi, Oliver. Aaron Adams, Region 7 representative. This isn't really a question about your report. It's just a question in general for you. Can you explain to me, please, if there's a legal difference between the terms general counsel and the terms special counsel?
Yes. I believe that the position that I hold in the past has been referred to as general counsel. When I became counsel to the LNC, I actually requested that I be called special counsel, and the reason is that I think, as most of you know, I run a nonprofit called Center for Competitive Democracy. That's actually the entity through which I did the main lawsuit. The LNC did provide some funding to support that lawsuit, but the lawsuit itself was done through my nonprofit and is actually outside the scope of my representation of the LNC. But because I run the Center for Competitive Democracy, it is a 501c3 nonprofit, and by definition needs to be a nonpartisan entity. And so for my own professional responsibilities, I wanted my role as counsel to the LNC designated as special counsel, so that I would be, so that it would be clear that I am able to represent the LNC as a counsel with the particular duties that I have as outlined in our engagement agreement, but serving in that role does not preclude me from representing other parties when we do ballot access cases through the Center for Competitive Democracy. Because typically when we do those ballot access cases, we represent a coalition of parties and voters, and we do that because, well, there are legal reasons for doing it, strategic reasons for doing it, but that's typically how we do ballot access litigation. and I needed to make it clear that I would be free to represent those other parties in those types of cases without any conflict between that representation and my representation of the Libertarian National Committee.
So I appreciate the rationale. Literally what I need to know is there a legal definable difference between the two terms? Or is this just a semantics thing where you're trying to draw a line and show some separation? Does it matter legally? Are the terms interchangeable, or do they have different legal definitions for us?
Okay. I think that they do have different legal definitions, and I guess to be more directly responsive, I would say that someone who serves in the role of general counsel, I think the implicit understanding is that virtually any legal matter that comes up would be the responsibility of that general counsel. Whereas a special counsel is typically confined to the mandate that is set forth in the engagement agreement, or whatever instrument is used to retain or create the special counsel. So a special counsel's role would be limited to the duties set forth in the engagement agreement, whereas a general counsel would be, we're retaining you and we want you to handle anything and everything that we may ask.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hall?
I would also like to add to the answer that I just gave, if I may.
Please.
That in practice, I think, and I think that the many years that I've served in this role bear this out, in practice, my representation of the LNC is not affected by that change in the title, because as it turns out, I end up doing kind of a very broad variety and scope of legal matters for the LNC, and so there has never been a time when I had to say, oh, I'm not able to do that, or that's outside the scope of my representation. Although I think I could be free to do that, and in fact, a general counsel could be free to do that as well. As my predecessor advised me, there may be times when I need to do that, but it never has come up. So I think in practice, there ends up being no difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hall? Oliver, anything else you would like to add or share with us?
No, just thank you very much for your time and flexibility today.
And thank you for everything that you have done and will continue to do. And I'm sorry all of that chaos for such a brief conversation.
That's okay. I understand and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye.
Next is policy manual amendment. Mr. Hagan, this is 10 minutes. Mr. Longstreth, 10 minutes for policy manual amendment.
Policy manual amendment, 10 minutes.
Says Mr. Hagan.
Yes, Mr. Hagan.
No, I know, but time is right.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was literally just saying I'm tired, I wasn't sorry. I got it.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Hagan.
All right, I'll move to delete from the policy manual, section 2.01.05, harassment, offensive behavior prohibition, remove the paragraph that says, any agreement that the LNC enters into with an affiliate must stipulate that the affiliate incorporate the principles set forth in the policy.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion to remove a policy item. It has been seconded. Just, are there any objections to that at this point? Then it seems to me like it's done. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sure just to hop on my colleagues. I'm gonna move to do, make an amendment, or suspend the rules to amend the agenda to take up a policy manual amendment regarding counsel.
Second.
In the terms special counsel versus general counsel, in our policy manual.
So adding this to the agenda would be new business without previous notice, requires a 2/3 vote, unless no one objects, obviously. And we would do that, we already have one thing already pending under new business without notice, so we would go after that.
Yeah, and this should literally take 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. Did you second it, right?
I did.
Okay, any objections to adding that to the agenda for today? All right, hearing no objections, it is added. Is that? Yes. Which was,
No. Well, we just passed it.
we already passed it, so
Right,
did you
but
add something else?
I have a second one about the LNC email. Do we have that to the agenda?
It's not as far as I know.
No, we did not. Okay, just to clarify, though, I thought we did add something else to the agenda.
We did.
Not?
We added the meeting of the LNC. We were gonna decide. at the
Oh,
meeting.
yes, so we do have something for later. Okay, Mr. Mullin.
I have a motion that I would like to add to the end regarding potential, the examination of moving the LNC but not LPHQ back from Gmail to the National Mail Service. And it would be, it's not to make a decision on it today, just to investigate and give a report. And I would be the one to say.
How much time would you need for that?
What, to discuss it or
Well,
give a report?
How much time do you want for that agenda item?
5 minutes.
Okay. So we have a motion to add to today's agenda under new business without notice, a report and perhaps discussion for 5 minutes related to moving away from G.
Yes,
Google.
this is not to provide the report, it is just to, I'm trying to gauge whether the committee wants me to take the time to do this or not.
I see.
That's all I wanna know.
To investigate whether or not we should move away from Google.
I would wholeheartedly investigation.
Okay, so we have a motion to add to the agenda for today a 5-minute discussion about moving away from Google. It has been seconded. Any objections to adding that to the agenda? Hearing no objections, it is added to the end. Anything else?
Orders of the day.
Orders of the day bring us to new business without previous notice, and I believe the first item for that is the decision on the LNC meeting, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Longstreth.
I would move to set the next LNC meeting on March the 12th and 13th of 2022 in Reno, at the Nugget Casino in Sparks, Nevada.
Second.
Object.
I know why. I think you heard me say 19th and 20th of March.
That's doable.
19 and 20 of March is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to ask that we do standings for just a second, because I was catching up and things.
Okay, no problem. Yes, we'll be at ease, and Mr. Wilford would also have that same conflict, so.
So 19th and 20th. The 13th. It's also
Mr. Mullin? Move an agenda item for a motion regarding.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, for the, yes, the.
I have you.
You mean
There.
Which, the one that passed already? or the
Yes,
one-
the one that passed.
The one that passed already is to engage in an analysis of phase out.
Oh, no, the one you just did.
Oh, the one I just did. So that hasn't passed, it's just added to the agenda.
Yes, but the
But it
motion
is,
has to be
it is,
agenda.
The only other person who's not here is Valerie.
determine,
I didn't message them, sorry.
or, I'm sorry, not this.
Moving away from Google?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for the LNC.
Our county conventions, which are, those dates are set by law.
All right.
All of our conventions are set by law.
Google. Motion received, second, without objection. Okay, now we are on to location of next LNC meeting. And
That the LNC meeting be on March 19th and 20th in Sparks, Nevada, at the Nugget Resort.
Eric's good with that too, that's around side.
All right, so are we current?
we are very close to carrying, if you want to proceed forward.
Okay, so just to let everybody know where we are, new business without previous notice, the orders of the day, we are discussing we have a motion to schedule the next LNC meeting for March 18th and 19th. 19th and 20th in Sparks, Reno, Nevada. It has been seconded. Are there any objections to that?
I'm going to object,
Okay,
because I'm going to discuss it very quickly.
there is an objection. Mr. Waltrip, would you like to speak to your motion?
I mean, here's the bottom line, right? Our convention committee has not yet had an opportunity in this term to tour that facility. I know it's in convention season. I know there's probably a date that conflicts with at least 2 or 3 regional representatives, but we got to have it happen at some point. First weekend of March, I know there's unavailability on this group. The second weekend of March, there's unavailability with our secretary and our chair, and it's somebody's birthday, and it's daylight savings time. So that's probably not a good weekend either. So the first available weekend that's a quarter away would be that weekend of March 18, 19, 20, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we owe it to our delegates and our convention committee to get them to that location to see it. That way they know the tables and spaces and things that they are trying to get people to buy for us. And honestly, that's too soon. We should have done this 6 months ago, but here we are. So let's correct it, get them out there, let them see what they need to see.
I had Ms. Adams, and then Mr. Woman, and then Mr. Ford.
So I just want to be really clear. Part of the problem that we're having is this entire resort has been remodeled since the last time we were there. So literally, every floor map we have is wrong. Everything is wrong. So we've been tasked to sell event space, tabling space. We're being asked about a broadcaster's row for a space that we have no dimensions on, no clear floor maps on, no nothing. This is the easiest, less costly way for the committee to do this. If the LNC decides today that they're not supportive of this, as the chair of the COC, I'm going to authorize an expenditure to fly my committee out there on our dime. I'm going to house them on our dime, and we're going to tour that facility. So you can meet there, and we can all pay for it ourselves. Or I'm going to fly the committee out on the dime, and we'll check it out that way. Either way, we have to be able to do our jobs. I'm asking for you to let us all pay our own way instead.
Mr. Woman?
Yeah, and I don't have any objection to it. My issue is, do we know that we have the space? Like the hotel, because we're making a motion that we're going to do it, but we haven't made sure that we actually can.
Mr. Krause and I discussed it yesterday. He told me he does not think it will be problematic in March.
Okay, I mean, that's, my only suggestion would be that the motion may, and I'm not making this amendment right now, but it could have had at the end, subject to the availability of the venue.
Sure.
At the end, and that way we wouldn't have to move to reconsider, we could just say it's not available and then make a new motion, but it doesn't really matter.
We can ask Mr. Krause.
Without objection, we'll go to Mr. Cross on this side.
Just a couple things. One is we do need to verify with the venue that is the heart of March Madness, although they don't have an event in Reno, thank God, otherwise it would have been in Toledo. That still could be an extremely busy weekend for them because it's an extremely busy sports betting weekend. So what I would recommend is that you give us 2 locations, and I believe our development director has an idea of the second location, and then we could present you with a couple different proposals, and that way you can all make a more informed decision, because we may have run into the same issue in another location too, just because it's March Madness weekend. So let's give you a couple choices in a few weeks, once we have all the information. I would listen to the development director, possibly on a second location, give us these 2 locations to sort out and get back to you.
Without any objections, we'll hear from Mr. Sisto about a second option. Thank you. Were you objecting?
So the last couple times that we have been in California, we have been in the LA area. Many of our major donors are in California, but up in the Bay Area, which is 7 hours away from where we have traveled. And so I think it's to our benefit to host a fundraiser in the Bay Area, and that is where I would suggest we put our next meeting.
Mr. Ford?
I've sort of flipped here. Mr. Longstreth's observation is correct. If you're an affiliate rep, there's always going to be a convention. I would argue that is based on Ms. Adams' testimony that it is critical that we find, rather than find an alternative if it doesn't work that weekend, find a weekend that works with Reno as soon as possible.
Here, here.
That's what I was in the queue to say, so you think me back out?
I'm all set.
I was going to suggest Northern California because it's a short, cheap train ride to Reno from there, and it's a very beautiful train ride as well. That's a possible suggestion, but I am reading the room and thinking that that suggestion is not going to be taken.
No, Mr. Ford said exactly what I was saying. So.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. If we need to have a fundraiser in Northern California, hold a fundraiser in Northern California, we needed to have an LNC meeting in Sparks. If we do it at the end of February, we do it the last weekend in March, I don't care, the meeting needs to be in Sparks.
Mr. Bowen?
Just reiterate, I am currently selling space to people that I have not seen. That is not a good way to conduct business. We have to be in Reno. We have to see that area one way or the other. I think the easiest, least expensive way to do that is to have a meeting in Reno. Find a time that is available and have a meeting in Reno.
Mr. Phillips,
I would make a motion to amend that we direct Mr. Kraus to explore with Reno what weekends they have available, with a preference being the weekend of the 19th and 20th, and let them report back to us.
And second. Well, and I would say a restriction on 12 and 13.
Right.
Cannot do it.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
Second. That's what I
And
heard.
including even the last week of February, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We'll spread out the
I did
time
actually hear that,
available.
yes. Well, no, last week in February is also not an option.
What?
One of my children is getting married.
Innocent man.
Maybe the vice chair has to share that.
So.
I'm sorry, but.
Hey, I can do something.
I can do something.
Okay.
You can do
Mr.
something.
Phillips,
So,
can
there you go.
please, again, state the motion?
I move to amend the motion to say that we direct Mr. Kraus to explore availability in Sparks, Reno, at the Nugget Casino around the weekend of the 19th or 20th, excluding what weekend?
12, 13.
The 12th and 13th of March.
That actually impacts Secretary and.
Right, that's why I said that's excluding that. I just needed to.
And which weekend in February?
The last one.
The last one, excluding that. Got it.
To explore availability in Sparks,
Fine,
about
whatever.
excluding.
I mean, that takes it down to 1 to 2 weeks, right? Sorry.
How about we just say weekends in February or March except for?
Right, except for those 2 weekends.
Yes.
The weekends. Which 2 weekends?
The last weekend in February.
And again, that, I mean,
That's the 20th.
we have a vice chair who can chair that, and
It's gonna put the first and last weekends.
It's fine.
Everybody saw me preside over a meeting. Not as good as I used to be on
Speaking of, may I speak, Madam Chair? May I just randomly?
Let me make sure I don't have anybody else.
No, I don't want to speak to the motion,
Oh,
sorry, I
yes.
thought we were just doing stuff.
Go ahead.
Speaking of fundraisers, I wanted to thank Tara DeSisto and all the people in Massachusetts for hosting an amazing fundraiser last night. We had a fantastic time, and it was a beautiful venue, and the people were amazing. And yeah, thank you so much.
Gotcha. 12th, 13th of March is the last weekend of February.
All right, so
That's harder than that long Delaware motion.
the motion on the floor is to direct staff to explore options for Reno Sparks, February, March, excluding the last weekend of February and the 12th and 13th of March.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, what's seconded?
Yes.
Second.
Are there any objections to that? All right, hearing no objections, the motion passes.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Is this related to?
And there was no objections to either the amendment or the language.
Are there any objections to hearing from Ms. DeSisto on that item we just did?
No.
So just so you know, the budget you guys put forward is a very ambitious budget, so it's as ambitious as you're allowed to get. But that's gonna require us to really work very, very hard to raise the revenue to meet those demands. So if you have determined, or if you do determine that the next board meeting is in Reno, we would probably not throw a fundraiser in Reno and instead, days before, do an event in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, that's fine.
And, you know, engagement with you folks is really important to our membership. And so I hope that when that fundraiser does get booked, that you will make additional time in your schedule to come and be with our donorship in the Bay Area.
Do you need to say something about that?
I do, and while I appreciate everything Mr. Sisso just said, this convention is arguably our largest fundraiser every year, and absolutely takes priority. So I'm sure as many of us as are able will support that fundraiser, but that type of fundraiser should never take priority or be implied to need to take priority over the one bylaws mandated function of this party and the largest fundraiser for this party. And yeah, I found that offensive. I need a minute.
Mr. Harris.
So I've been nodding my head along with what Ms. Adams says. I just wanted to mention that I confirmed with Mr. Ferreira that short, cheap train ride does in fact go in both directions. And so I think that what the objective is going to be, this body has spoken with a very loud voice that our fundraising events need to be profitable fundraising events. And so it has been a sort of a dual mandate to some extent that we have tried to revolve them around where this committee wishes to conduct its business, even if that is not always necessarily the most fruitful area for us to explore. When those align, it's beautiful. But as I understand, and please convey to me otherwise if this understanding is not correct, it's a heavy priority for this committee that our fundraising events, our smaller fundraising events throughout the year, be optimized for profitability and engagement of our donorship. And so I would just echo that I hope this committee would support those, and if that's how this ends up working out, because certainly we want this committee to be where it needs to be. And it sounds very clearly like that is Reno. And Robert will help facilitate that in every way possible. possible. And so we hope this committee will continue to support the financial priorities by encouraging others and seeking to, if you all can personally, to support those efforts. So I just wanted to echo that, which I think is in agreement with what was said by both Mrs. Sisto and Ms. Adams.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just, Region 2 is going to be vacated. I'm heading to the airport trying to get some earlier flights back down, so I'll be heading down. Thanks, everyone.
I absolutely agree that if we can optimize, I can't think of anything more fun than being on a train with all of you. So if we can, even if it's both ways. So if we can figure out a way to do something in the Bay Area, one night, take, if it were to take a couple hours by train, hop on a train early in the morning or whenever, head down to Reno, spend a night there, and then come back late after a meeting on Sunday. I think that'd be fun. Just me. It could be fun on a train with y'all.
You are a very good sport, apparently.
I'm going to call for the order.
Yes. We have dispensed with the LNC, the meeting decision. The next item, Mr. Secretary, could you please tell me what it is?
Yeah, the next item is a change to policy with council. This was originally going to be moved by Ms. Adams, but with the body's indulgence, I'll move it. Okay. Move to strike all instances of the word general counsel and insert the words council in the policy manual.
Second.
So we're actually just striking the word general.
That's correct. But
That's true.
But we didn't want, there may be other uses of the word general.
That's true. That is a good point.
Okay.
That's
touche.
I knew what she was doing there. I had the same thought. I'm like, oh.
Well, if we had specified specifically that policy item, then it would be good. Okay. Does everyone understand what the purpose of that was?
Yeah.
What we're doing there? It's just in that one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. In those instances specifically.
But what was the point of that?
So, because we don't have a general.
Yes. So, it was seconded. I know there aren't any objections to it, but if Mr. Longstreth will go ahead and explain
Yeah,
what
so
we're doing.
basically we heard from Oliver and I confirmed a special counsel is somebody who specializes in something. General counsel is basically general, right? Mr. Hall prefers to be called special counsel. Our policy manual clearly says we need a general counsel. I understand what he wants to do. This would remove the conflict of do we have the right person in place. And I understand if this is your first LNC, this is not the first time that this has been brought up. So in order to fix that, if we go through the policy manual and we just replace general counsel with counsel, it will never be a question again for anybody ever and ever. Amen.
Got it. Thank you. I understood what he was saying, but okay, thanks.
All right. Are there any objections to that motion? All right. Hearing no objections, the motion passes.
Yay.
So we will be striking general counsel where it appears in the policy manual and replacing it with counsel.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Molman. I'm going to read your motion, or do you want to read it?
I'll just read it. Move to ask Ken Molman to provide at or before the March meeting of the LNC a report to the LNC to scope the migration of the LNC back to the LP National Mail Server. LPHQ would remain on Google Workspace and is out of scope for this report.
Second.
All right. Is there a motion to do what he just said? And it was seconded. Any objections to that? Did you say you would report back at next meeting?
At or before.
Okay. Any objections to that action?
Madam Chair, the only objection I would have is let's do it in person. Rather than trying to exchange things, so maybe at the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll try to provide the report before the meeting. People can read it and we can talk about it.
Great.
We don't have to take any action. This doesn't take any action.
Any further discussion or objection to this? All right. Hearing none. It is so.
Thank you.
Orders.
Next up is adjournment, as far as I have.
Madam Chair, move to adjourn.
Object, all comment?
That is true. Orders of the day actually have us.
Right there.
Orders of the day actually have us with announcements from LNC members. Any?
who missed it, I'm foolish enough to be the lieutenant governor candidate for the state of Illinois.
And anyone else?
I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been a really long weekend, but look at what we got done. We've got a balanced budget for the 4th year in a row. We've got a resolution to Delaware, right? We are moving forward. I am glad that we were all able to come together and work together and get these 2 mountains taken care of, as well as a couple of other little hills. Let's continue this spirit of working together for the next 6 months and end on a very, very high note, because that's what this party needs going into it.
And any other LNC members wishing to make announcements? Mr. Mullen?
I'll just thank whoever happens to still be watching. Thanks.
All right, if that's it for announcements, that brings us to public comment.
Point of personal privilege.
Mr. Mullen.
Yesterday, we canceled the region reports. Originally, I had worked with some of the members here, chair in particular, to add a little bit of time because I knew state chairs were going to be here to speak. Ms. Shea did speak during public comment. Unfortunately, Mr. Pelletier from New Hampshire was unable to work his schedule out for him to speak, but I was hoping that Mr. Rial from Connecticut could take 5 or 10 minutes to discuss a proposal that he has in lieu of my region report of yesterday. So I would indulge the chair to maybe just give Mr. Rial a little extra time in public comments to discuss what he'd like to discuss.
So we've got 15 minutes built in for a public comment this afternoon, and it appears there might be only one speaker, but either way, we don't have a limit on speakers because that's what Simone pointed out this morning that wasn't built into today's agenda.
Okay.
So he can have a few minutes, that would be fine.
Okay.
I expected it.
Oh, sure, yeah, and actually that would, that might make a little sense to do it that way,
Yes,
so.
we're in public comment.
I'm going to do, yeah, no, sure.
So I will ask though that he doesn't take the entire 15
I
minutes
will be
because.
as brief as possible,
Okay.
and I'm really good.
That's why I asked him to do written too.
Thank you.
so
Yes,
that,
thank you. Yeah.
We do time with the fact.
So I'm going to do this presentation a little backwards. What is written down is my proposal, but what I am going to talk about is what we've done in Connecticut and how awesome it is. And the proposal is pretty much, here's how the LNC could kind of get there. Just by way of background, I've served about 7 chairs as a Libertarian Party of Connecticut chair. I was one of 3 people in 2007 who was doing anything. That was back when Bob Barr was not me. And between then and now, we have affiliates in every county. We have local town organizations in a third of the state. We raised, I think it was $14,000 in July. We raised $22,000 in August, and we did another 11 and 12 in September. Now, how did we do that? We, over time, have kind of understood there are 3 types of people in the Libertarian Party. A and B people are typically faction people, but we've retained the C people, which are like, your people who know how to do things, fundraise, petition, stuff like that. So we've developed manuals. We've actually provided the National Party with a copy of our local affiliate manual. So we've kind of actually figured out who does who, and we let people do what they're good at. And the other thing I am proud to say about Connecticut is we don't have any factions, we don't have any infighting. We actually look at each other, although we disagree vehemently, we're a family at the end of the day. And that kind of culture has been cultivated because we've mentored the people that have come through, and we've made our officers, better than the ones that have preceded them. So basically, my proposals are kind of how you get there, how you reach people. And one of the critical things we've done is just door knock local libertarians. And if you just knock on a libertarian's door, most libertarians don't even know we're out there. So they're going to be excited to see you, and you can just set up a local meeting, and that's how we've built our organization the way we have. So in closing, I mean, a lot of these things may seem somewhat controversial, but I'll just highlight a few. The big one is this. When it comes to ballot access, you guys may have heard about the Meriden suit, some of you. For those of you who don't know, we were thrown out of a public park in 2018 for serving a ballot petition. We turned around, we sued. I personally got $5,000, the Libertarian Party of Connecticut got 32. I can't even begin to imagine how many merit-ins happen all the time during ballot access season. And one thing I can tell you as litigation paralegal and a plaintiff in these sort of cases is that money is on the table. All you have to do is demand it. It is not as expensive as you would think of to actually get a suit. But one thing I do want to do is work with national staff and all of you to develop a policy or protocol for petitioners. And the thing that we did, or actually I did when I was on the ground, is I said, okay, you're throwing us out of the park. I wasn't going to debate because you don't want to fight with cops. And they're dead set on doing what they're going to do. I just wanted to make sure they're going to document, memorialize, we're throwing you out of the park. I said, okay, fine, you'll see the marshal in 2 weeks. And they did. So the point is, a lot of this ballot access problem can be solved. And it can be solved by the very government agents that are throwing us off of public property. So other than that, the only one thing I do have to say about raising money is there's a lot of anger about COVID restrictions. We raised a lot of money through that. I mean, there's a public that's reasonably frustrated and upset. And the other opportunity that we're having, and I'm hoping to have a continued dialogue on this, is you've got a lot of Republican and Democratic donors that are disaffected because we've got Democrats and Republicans being radicalized, and the donors they're looking for a new home. So I'd say read the proposals over. If you have any questions, reach out. But thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all you do. And unfortunately, I'm firing myself next month as chair. They can't make me do it. Congratulations! Yes,
She go.
Is Angela out there, guys? Yes. She just stepped out.
Okay. Yes. Oh, and Sean, you'll speak too. We'll get to everything. Jeremy.
You guys spoke a little bit earlier. I'm Jeremy, Chair of the Libertarian Party of Boston, Operations Director for the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. I want to end on a positive note. I want to talk about the work that we do in Boston, not just around the homelessness advocacy that we do, but even in the electoral side of the politics here. Recently, I was involved in state senate redistricting with Vice President of the State Senate, William Brownsberger. Very impactful discussion, and we're going to see we're actually going to end up running the Libertarian for Massachusetts State Senate come 2023. Well, 2022. Sorry, keep forgetting that we're in 21. Additionally, we are seeing ourselves build coalitions. Vernon Supreme likes to call it the wall of communists, but we have a bunch of socialists at the State House screaming that the state is a fucking joke. It's through that rally, many people may have already heard of it. This was our July 5th rally. In this one event, we got connected to over 46 organizations across the state of Massachusetts, one of which was the Democratic Party's largest anti-war wing, known as Mass Peace Action. It has been an amazing partnership growing with them as well. They've hosted speakers such as Scott Horton to speak on anti-war topics. They've hosted me as chair of the Libertarian Party of Boston to also collaborate further on anti-war efforts. Across the state of Massachusetts, we saw Ashley Shade become elected, the first trans woman to ever be elected to public office in the Berkshires, and the highest office in the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. We're aiming for higher next year as well, with Kevin Breed running for state senate. We're also running higher with me running for state auditor on the slate with Vernon Supreme as governor. You already publicly announced him last day. So I hope that we continue your support. Also, I'm an SFLer. I come from a history of activism and action. We're going to have a regional conference at Harvard, and I hope to see everyone here. At that regional conference, I hope to see further support, further alignment. Thank you for coming to Boston. I hope you've enjoyed your time, and I hope we've been as welcoming as possible to the LNC. Thank you.
Thank you. The conference, when is the conference?
We're still figuring out the dates. I'm working with SFL staff to figure that out better. But when I have exact dates, I'll let the LNC know, and hopefully we can get the message out to the LNC.
Did you want to speak, Sean?
Yes.
hearing the good news. Maine has been fairly active this past year. We converted a Republican to a Libertarian who is sitting in the legislature. We hope to re-elect him this coming year, making him the first such convert in the country to win re-election. John Andrews or Anderson? Andrews. Yes, thank you. We are going to be running the largest slate of legislative candidates in decades. We have at least 5 and are still recruiting more. We have a legislative team putting together crafting legislation for our candidates to run on and turn to propose. This time always. We just this past month held a special convention in order to nominate delegates to the national convention. We traditionally have our regular conventions in April, and that's very close to when the convention is, so we decided to try this out. We have currently a full slate of 8 delegates and 1 alternate, and we're likely to have more alternates signed on by the time the convention rolls around. If this holds up, it'll be the first time in my memory that we have ever billed our slate at an in-person convention. And most importantly, I've written to all of you when there was a prospect of our vice chair becoming an alternate, which he just declined on running. This Mises Caucus member works well with all of us. It's possible for everyone to get along, despite all the controversies we see and hear a lot. The heat and fire from those controversies tends to get a lot more attention. So I keep repeating myself over and over again. There is peace, at least in Maine, and I hope to set an example for the rest of the country.
Can we hear from Liz?
So I'll keep it short. New York came up earlier, and I am also a communications director for Talk Leader. And any donations, if you can do anything remotely, you don't even have to live in New York for some things. You can go to tomfor52.com and volunteer if you would like. And if you have any interest in comms and social media, I'm your girl. Tom's just rerunning for Senate District 52 in New York.
That's TOMFOR. 5
FTG.
This is on Clubhouse.
Crack house.
Yes.
Hi everyone, Ashley Shade, Chair of Libertarian Party of Massachusetts. Again, I want to reiterate again, thank you all for choosing to come to Boston to hold this meeting and being here with us. We will be having our state convention on April 23rd. We do not have the facility booked yet, but April 23rd is the. Do we know final?
Yep, we're going to be in Framingham at the Sheridan.
Perfect. So Framingham, Massachusetts, April 23rd. We would love to have all of you come out again. Anyone who can be there. We are planning a big convention for Massachusetts, which is something we have not had in several years. So we are looking forward to that. I also want to reiterate again, as somebody who just ran and won for one office here in Massachusetts, I couldn't have done it without the many donations that I received from libertarians across this country, the many volunteers, over 30 different people who worked for me in the campaign and putting in that time and effort, and I want to recognize all of them. They are now taking skills back to where they are to help their candidates run and to be candidates themselves, which is a beautiful thing when we can do that kind of outreach in that building. It's so to be able to be a part of that. And as now an elected person, last night I did finally make the commitment, and I will be a life member going forward for this party, because I am committed that this party is the only party that truly believes that all human beings deserve to be free. and deserve their pay, they're and so I'm committed to all of you, and I thank you so much for being here and being part of what we do. Again, thank you for coming to Boston. Thank you for being in Massachusetts. And thank you all.
Thank you. On time, but yes. Okay. Well, I guess as long as you have an audience, if you have anything to say, you're welcome to. Hang on a sec, since we heard from you. You guys want to have anything to say this afternoon? Or?
I said enough.
Okay. Angela had asked to speak, but she was second and she disappeared before.
Yeah, like.
Okay. Hang on. Mr. Real.
Just really quick, Madam Chair, point of information, what is taxation?
I believe it is that, and as of yesterday, or Friday, we also heard it was tyranny. So it is theft and tyranny.
And extortion.
And extortion.
I guess, I know that we've now invited you back to Boston several times over for our convention on April 23rd, but also on March 25th through 27th, we will be hosting the Association of Libertarian Educators in this building. The reason why we haven't formally announced it is because the committee is crafting their mission statement at the moment, and we want to have that set for release very early first of the year, but we would love to welcome the LNC to participate as well in that event.
I don't see anybody else.
Let's adjourn.
We don't need a motion. We are adjourned. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
If you're staying later tonight, we're going to Hot Pot at about 7:30 in Chinatown.